A very good afternoon, dear students. The thought of the day is education is the passport to future. Or you can say education is the passport of your dreamland, where you want to go. So prepare it for tomorrow, but you have to prepare it today, as it is said by the Malcolm. I hope you all are safe at your place. This is a lecture for the subject Banking, Law and Practice. I, Professor Sonal Agrawal, welcome you all on the digital platform of Agrawal Vidya Vihar English Medium College. Just to make you remind about what we did in the last lecture, we have started with our chapter number 2, Banker-Customer Special Relationship. We have discussed general relationship in the chapter number 1. Then we discussed about the taking points of the chapter number 2, that what we have to learn in second chapter. So the list of the topics are there. We have to learn about the banker's right of lien. Then we have to learn about the appropriation of payment. Then banker's right to set off. If you are as a customer, you are having more than one account. And then bankers' right to charge the interest and commission on different types of duties or the functions which is performed by the bank. Then banker's obligation to maintain the secrecy of customer's account. And lastly, we have to learn about the garnishee order, which is the order of the court on the account of the customer. We have started with the topic banker's lion. We have discussed the meaning of it, that lion is the right to take the possession of any property against the due amount till the repayment of due amount. Here, the creditor cannot sell the property to get the amount of dues. Here, the creditor is having the right only to take the possession of the goods. Then we have discussed about the types of lion, where we discussed the particular lion and general lion. The particular lion is available only against a particular property in which you have exercised your time, labor, skills, money, etc. The repairing is the best example of a particular lion. The next is the general lion. Here, the general lion is the right of creditor to retain the possession of any property belonging to him. Clear? Any property belonging to the person, or you can say belonging to the debtor, in exchange of the amount which is due. I prepared this chart for you, so it will be easy for you to understood that the general lien means the right of the creditor to retain the possession of any property, and particular lien means the creditor can purchase the property on which he has exercised his skills, time, money or labor. Then we have talked about the banker's lion. Here, the banker's lion is always a general lion, but it is more than a general lion. Why? Because some of the extra that the facilities, or you can say the extra right which is available in case of the banker's lion, or you can say if the creditor is banker, then it is not available if the creditor is a general person. Then we discussed about some of the essential features of a banker's right of a general lien. In that we have discussed that the banker general lien, it is an implied pledge. Why? Because if your creditor is a banker, in that case, the banker is also having the right to sell your property. But if the creditor is the general person, then that person is not having the right to sell the property to recover the loan amount. But the banker can sell the property to recover the loan amount. But the general person can retain the property only till the amount is not paid. So banker's lien is also an implied pledge. The banker's right conferred upon the bankers by statute. We also discussed this point that this right, statute means a written law that is passed by any legal body. And this right, or this banker's right, is confirmed under the section number 171 of the Indian Contract Act 1972. That act says that there is no need of separate agreement, or there is no need of separate contract. Clear? For this purpose, banker is having this right, which is an implied one. But in India, it is a practice that the generally bankers are taking the letter of lion. Why? Because afterwards, after some times, they want to remove or they want to avoid the chances of or the possibilities of claim by the customer. Then we discussed that the security received by the banker to be dealt within his business. If any security received by a banker for any special purpose, then banker cannot exercise the right of general lion on that particular property. Then we discussed that security must be owned by the customer. It is compulsory that if the banker wants to take the possession of the property or the banker wants to sell the property, then the property must be owned by the customer on which the debt is due. It is not that the property must be registered with the name of the any third party, or if the property is registered with the joint name or joint ownership is there. In that case, the banker is not able to exercise the right of general lion on that type of property. Then we discussed about the statute of limitations. The statute of limitations says that there are certain particular period that the banker can claim in the court to recover the amount which is due. But here, in case of general lion, the banker can take the possession of the property for time by date also. Means the time is limited to claim in the court. The time is over, but the banker is having the right to keep the possession for the property for that type of debt also. Means the banker cannot claim in the court, but the banker is having the right to take the possession of the property for that type of debt also. Now today we are going to, now this is all done about the special features of the banker's right of a general lion. Then there are some exceptions of the right of general lion. As a banker, we says that in case of general lion, the creditor or the banker can take the possession of any property which is registered with the name of the customer. But some of the exceptions are there in case of banker as a creditor. First exception is that article deposit for a safe custody. Here, banker's general lion does not apply to the securities or the articles which are deposited with the banker for safe custody. Because the reason is at the time when the banker is receiving the securities or valuables for the safe custody, the banker is supposed to act like a bailee, and the banker is not in the capacity of a to take the possession of that property to exercise the right of general lion. Why? Because as we discussed in the general characteristics of the banker customer relationship, whenever the customer deposits any valuables for the purpose of safe custody with the banker, at that time banker work as a bailee, at that time customer is the bailer according to the bailment act. And if any loss occur to that type of property, then the banker is responsible for the compensation. So of course, yes, the banker is not having any right to exercise the right of general lien on that type of property. For example, I, as a customer, has submitted or deposited the documents of the shares in the locker. Clear? Or I kept my jewelry in the locker. In that situation, what is the objective of mine? That I want the securities of my jewelry. Clear? In that situation, the banker is not having any right to exercise the right of general lien on my jewelry which is kept in a locker. Why? Because what is my objective here? My objective is safe custody of that jewelries. Clear? So in that situation, banker is not having any right to exercise the right of general lien on that type of properties which is kept for the purpose of safe custody. The second one, securities which is entrusted for a special purpose. That the securities or goods which are handed over to the banker for any special purpose cannot be subject to the banker's general lien, because a contract inconsistent with the right of a lien. It means when the banker entrusted certain securities or the goods to the banker for any special purpose, like we can take the example for selling them, the right of general lien would not be available for a banker. I handed over my any property for any special purpose. Suppose I handed over the draft of 5,000 rupees to transfer in the someone's account. Clear? At that time, what is my objective? I want to pay to someone. The banker cannot exercise the right of general lien on the draft. Or the another example that I handed over the the papers of any property. Suppose the papers of go down. In that situation, what is my objective? I want to sell my go down. That's why I handed over the property or papers of the go down. At that time, what is my objective? I want to sell. Yes, objective is already clear. Your purpose is already clear. I handed over the documents for a special purpose. In that situation, the banker is not having any right to exercise the general lien on that type of property. The banker has to do the functions as per the instruction of the customer. At that time, the banker will call the agent of the customer, you can say. Why? Because banker has to perform according to the instruction of the customer, and the banker cannot exercise the right of general lien on that property. And the last one is securities which is left with the banker by mistake. The banker cannot exercise the right of general lien on the securities, or you can say on the documents which are left by mistake with the banker. For example, suppose a customer brings the documents to his banker to take a loan, and the banker declined to grant the loan because of any reason, but the customer leave the some of the important documents with the bank and forgot to pick up the documents. At that time, the banker cannot exercise the right of general lien on that type of particular documents to recover the debt which is due. Why? Because the customer forgot the document at the premises of bank. The bank customer forgot to pick up the document. So the securities, or you can say the document which is left of the banker, it is left by a mistake. So it is the duty of a banker to safeguard it and not to exercise the right of general lien on that type of property. I hope it is clear. These all are the exception or of the right that the banker cannot exercise the right of the general lien on some types of situation. Which are they? The first situation is that when the customer or when any debtor deposit, or you can say the transfer any article or any goods or any security for the purpose of safe custody. At that time, banker has to perform as a bailee. The banker cannot exercise the right of general lien as a banker. The second one is that when any property papers or any securities or any goods handed over to the bank for any special purpose. In that situation, it is the duty of the banker to act according to the instruction of the customer. At that time also, the banker cannot exercise the right of general lien on that type of property. And the third is that when the customer forget to pick up the security property papers or any documents or the securities at the premises of bank, the bank you can say the customer forgot some of the important valuables at the premises of bank or with the banker. At that time, the customer left the securities by mistake. So the banker cannot exercise the right of general lien on that type of property even though the debt is due. Clear? So these all are the exception that at that time or in this situation the banker is not able to exercise the right of general lien. So this is the end of the general lien topic. What we discussed starting with the meaning of lien, then the types of the lien, particular lien and general lien. Then we discussed the meaning of both and with the example. Then this is the short chart to make it easy to you. And then we discussed about the banker's lien, that banker's lien is always a general lien, but some more extra facilities or you can say extra right is available for banker. Then we discussed about the features of the banker's right of general lien. In that we have discussed these 5 features. First one is the implied pledge. Second one is the right confirmed by the banker by statute. And the next one is the security which is received by a banker to be dealt within his business. And the next is security which is owned by the customer. And the next one is the statute of limitations. Then we discussed about the exception to the right of general lien. In that we discussed the 3 exceptions. The first one is if customer deposit any documents or any goods or properties for the purpose of safe custody. Then, if the customer deposited any security or handed over any security for any special purpose. And the last one is that customer forget any securities or any properties with the banker by mistake. At that time, the banker cannot exercise the right of general lion. This is the end of the topic of the lion. Now we are going to start with the second topic. As we can discuss in the pickup points, that first pickup point is banker's lion. That topic is over. Now the second point is the appropriation of payment. Now we are going to start with the second point, appropriation of payment. Now question arises, what do you mean by appropriation of payment? What is the situation when the banker has to appropriate the payment? So the question of appropriation of payment arises when a customer having two or more than the two debts with the banker which are due. Clear? When the customer owes the several distant, you can say several debt to a creditor, here creditor is a banker, and make the payment of insufficient fund, that is not able to satisfy the whole amount which is due, then the question arises that to which debt should be payment be appropriated. Suppose a customer is having three loan account. The amount due in first loan account is 10,000. The amount due in second loan account is again 10,000. The amount due in third loan account is 5,000. So the total amount due is 25,000. But the customer has given the check of 20,000. In that situation, the question arises that which debt should be settled first and which debt should be remain as a due. So there are some rules for the appropriation of payment. Clear? So appropriation of payment, the same starting line is the same when the debtor owns the several debts to the same creditor. Here, what will be the condition? The creditor must be same. Suppose the customer is having three loan account, but first loan account is with the SBI, second loan account is with the POB, third loan account is with the Axis Bank. So the appropriation of payment question is not arise. This type of question arises when the customer is having more than one loan account or more than one debt which is due against the same creditor. The creditor must be same. Clear? Then this type of question arises. So what the banker has to do, what are the rules and regulation about the appropriation of payment, that we are going to discuss in this too. Then first thing, just focus on my words, don't focus on the slides. Appropriation of payment can be done via three ways. First way is according to the instruction of the debtors. Clear? The debtor has to say that I want to settle this loan account first, I want to settle this loan account in the last. This type of instruction must be given by the debtors. This is the first method. The second method is that if debtor has not given any instruction, then banker has to decide that which type of debt or which debt the banker wants to settle first. Clear? The banker has to take the decisions according to the benefit of the banker point of view. So now the banker has to take the decision. This is the second way or second method. Third method is that when no instruction is given by the debtor also and no instruction is given by the banker also. Clear? All the debts are almost in the same position. To satisfy any debt first will not be give so much profit to the banker. So the banker is not in a such position that this loan should be settled first or this loan should be settled in the last. The banker is also at a neutral position. So the banker has not given any instruction also. In that situation, the rule has to be followed. The settlement, or you can say the appropriation, must be done according to the law. So these three are the methods for the appropriation of payments. First method, according to the instruction of the debtor. Second method, according to the instruction or wish of the banker. And the third method, appropriation by law. So what is meant by these three methods we are going to discuss in the topic appropriation of payments. So starting with the first point, debtor's express instruction must be followed. If debtor has expressly clearly says that I want to settle this type of loan or this loan first, I want to settle loan number one first. So the bank, as a banker, it is the duty of a banker to follow the instruction of the debtors. Second, banker's implied intention must be followed. Suppose two loan account is there. The debt in first loan account is 20,000. The debt which is due in the second loan account is 30,000. And the banker's hand has given the check of 20,000. So it is an implied intention that as a debtor, but the debtor wants to settle the loan number account first. Why? Because it is implied that 20,000 is due in the loan number 1 and 30,000 is due in the loan number 2. So it is implied that the customer wants to settle loan number 1. Why? Because check is given of 20,000. So we can say this types of implied intention is there. The third is appropriation by creditor. When this type of situation arises, creditor means the banker. When debtor does not give any instruction, whether it is implied or expressed, no type of instruction is given by the debtor. In that situation, the appropriation must be done according to the instruction of creditor, according to the instruction of banker. So in that situation, if there is a no expense or implied directions by the debtors, the creditor may appropriate the debt according to the you can say benefit of the banker. The banker here focus here. In that situation, the banker can appropriate the payment for the time by debt also. Again, I am repeating, the banker can appropriate the payment for time bad debt also, against which the banker cannot file the claim in the court. But the banker can settle if no instruction is given by the debtor. And the third method you can say that appropriation by law. If no instruction is given by the debtor, again no instruction is given by the creditor, in that situation the appropriation must be done according to the sum of the law, or you can say according to the sum of the rules. So which are the rules is there? So when the no instruction is given, the settlement must be done according to the order of time. Clear that loan number 1 is taken in the year of 2005, loan number 2 is taken in the year of 2007, loan number 3 is taken in the year of 2010. So according to the time, it says that the banker has to settle loan number 1. Why? Because it is the oldest one, it is taken in the year of 2005. So the banker has to follow the order of time or order of need, you can say. If debt is of which is outstanding, which is of equal amount, suppose 10,000 is due in all the accounts, so payment can be, you can say you can appropriate the payment proportionately. Clear? If suppose say 3 loan taken in the same year or 2 loan taken in the, you can say in the shorter time, in that situation the banker may also distribute the payment in both the accounts. Or when the principal and interest, both the amounts are due. Again, be focused here, when the principal amount of loan is also due and the interest amount on loan is also due, at that time the banker has to settle the interest amount first. And afterwards the banker has to settle the principal amount. So these are some of the rules of the appropriation of payment. I have made a chart for you that if you remember this chart, so it is easy to remember all the rules. The first thing, the first right to appropriate the payment is in the hand of the debtor. That the appropriation must be done by the instruction of the debtor. So two options are there. If the instruction is given by the debtor, then yes. If the instruction is not given by the debtor, then no. So if instruction is given by the debtor, means yes is there, then the banker has to follow the instruction of the customer or the instruction of the debtor. No option arises when no instruction is given by the debtor about the appropriation of payment. In that situation, the appropriation is done by the creditor, or you can say by the banker. Again, two options are there. When the banker has given the instruction for the settlement or for the appropriation, yes. Or if the banker has not given any instruction for the settlement or for the appropriation, then no. If banker has given any instruction, then it is the duty of the you can say the person who is clearing the check to follow the instruction of the banker or to follow the instruction of the creditor. If no instruction is given by the banker also, in that situation the appropriation must be done by law. And the appropriation of law says that the first debt should be paid first, means the oldest one should be paid first. Yeah, and the one more rule is there: if the principal amount and the interest amount both are due, then the interest amount should be settled first. And if more than one loan account is there and both the loan account is having almost same due amount, then the banker can appropriate the payment in both the loan account also. So these are some of the rules to appropriate according to the law. So if you remember this chart, so you can remember easily the authority to appropriate the payment. The first authority or the first right to appropriate the payment is in the hand of the debtor. If debtor has not appropriate, then the this type of right goes in the hand of the creditor. If again no appropriation is done by the creditor, then ultimately the appropriation should be done according to the rules and regulations. So these are the meaning of appropriation of payment. Again, I am repeating why this type of situation arise, why there is a need to appropriate the payment. So three conditions must be satisfied. First condition, the customer is having more than one dues or more than one debt which is dues, which are dues. Second, the dues should be against the same creditor. The creditor must be same. And the third condition is that payment which is done by the debtor is insufficient to satisfy the full amount of the total debt or the total amount of all the debt. If these three conditions are fulfilled, then the question arises about the appropriation of payment. Then the decision, how to take the decision, how to do the appropriation. So these all are the rules for the appropriation of payment. I hope it is clear to you. I have prepared this chart for you. So just take the screenshot of it, or you can also draw it in your notebook, or what you can do that just revise it 2 times. Yeah, just have a look for 2 times. Then it will be clear. You can say printed in your mind. Clear? It is very easy to understand. Just read it twice. With this, the meaning, or you can say the basic about the appropriation of payment is over. So what we did in the today's lecture, we have started with the revision about the taking points. Then we have discussed about the meaning of banker's lion. We have discussed about the general meaning of lion. Then we have discussed about the two types of lion, that is the particular lion and general lion. After that, we discussed in brief the meaning of the particular lion and the meaning of the general lion. We also saw the example that particular lion, you can take the example of repairs, and general lion means you can take the possession of any property. Then we have a look upon this, you can say the chart that make the topic very easy to understood. That general lion means the creditor can take the possession of any property. Particular lion means any particular property on which the skills or time or money or labors are exercised. On those properties, the creditor can take the possession, or the creditor can exercise the right of particular lion. Then we discussed about the banker's lion. So what do you mean by banker's lion? Banker's lion is always a general lion, but some more rights are given to the banker as a creditor. That's why it is more than the general lion. Then we discussed about these 5 features of the banker's right of general lion. That first one, it is an implied privilege. Second one, the right confirmed upon by the banker by statute under the, you can say, Indian Contract Act. Then it is if any security is received for any special purpose, then banker cannot exercise the right of lion on that. And if the security is not owned by the customers, it is owned by the joint ownership or any third party, then the bankers cannot exercise the right of general lion on that. And if the statute of limitations says that the banker can exercise the right of general lion on the time by date also. We discussed these features in brief. Then we have started with the exception to the right of general lion. 3 exceptions are there. That first one is if article is deposited for the objective of safe custody, if article is given to the customer for any special purpose, or if article or security is left with the customer by mistake. In these 3 situations, the banker cannot exercise the right of general lion on the particular property. Then we have started the topic appropriation of payment. Appropriation of payment, the question arises about appropriation of payment when the customer is having more than one loan or more than one debt which is due, and the payment which is done by the customer is insufficient to satisfy the whole amount of debt. Then the question arises that which debt should be settled first, and from which debt account the payment should be appropriate. In that situation, there are some rules about the appropriation of payments. The appropriation can be done by 3 methods. First method is appropriation by the debtor. The second is appropriation by the creditor, and the third one is the appropriation by law. So first right to appropriate is in the hand of the debtor, the second right goes in the hand of the creditor, and afterwards the appropriation should be done according to the law. So which are the conditions that the person has to follow? We have discussed about it. So this is the end of the brief of the appropriation of the payment. In the next lecture, we are going to start with the Clayton case, which is the part of the appropriation of payment. Till then, stay home, stay safe, start learning. We are going to meet in next lecture. Have a happy day. Thank you.